Welcome, everybody, and my name is Dylan, and we are coming to you live from the streaming closet at Codename Entertainment in the smoked-out, foggy, desolate wasteland that is Victoria, BC, Canada. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Dungeons & Dragons for hosting us on the official D&D Twitch account. It is and will always be an honor to be here. Shout out as well to our mod team, Sasha and Erica, for helping keep the show going. So I have two special guests today. And they are here. We are here to talk about all things year three and maybe even hint at what's to come down the road. Please welcome Justin and David. And it occurred to me that I should probably unmute you if I want to talk to you.
Hello.
Oh,
Hi. How you guys doing?
Oh, great.
great. Staying safe, staying distanced. You can see I'm back here.
Oh,
That's weird, actually, seeing that you can lean back and just show up behind David like that. That's actually kind of funny.
It's super creepy.
the weirdest part is that I can hear them both there and through the call, so let's hope we don't jam each other up.
And before anybody wonders why the code in the corner, the Justin and David code, doesn't work, it's because I actually haven't made it yet. I just asked Erica to do that for me because I'm like getting stuff ready. Because this is a super professional stream, and it always is whenever I host both of you at the same time. Before we get too far into anything random, like how hard it is to get a 3080, maybe we can talk a bit about just how year three went from the perspectives of the two leads for Idle Champions.
Yeah, I mean, year three was I wrote the retrospective blog, so I've been thinking about this a little bit recently, and year three was quite something. There was we got a lot done. I think if you told me I was going to get all that stuff done, I would have been like, "That's great. I don't believe you, but okay." And it feels really good to have everything on that list done, to have gotten mode run automation and multi-party play out this year. Obviously, the patron system was part of our year two anniversary last year. The time gate upgrades. It was just a great year for features and Idle Champions.
I guess it's been a great year for features. It's been a great year for fixes too. I think that's the part that I remember the most, other than everything just being a blur since March. And I mean, what did we do right after year two started? Because I guess it would have been September last year. It's actually a blank to me what features went out in October.
The patron system was part of the year two anniversary, and then the time gate upgrade or updates.
That was January, right?
That was very beginning of January. So we were working on that in December.
And offline progress also in January.
Did we do offline progress this year? Wow.
Yeah. Well, it came out in January. Yeah. Yeah, it was the end of the month. And then Dragon Bait and Olcoria as well in there somewhere.
Yeah, Dragon Bait was January 1st. I remember because I made the joke last year that they would be coming out in 2019 plus one.
And, I guess at this point, how do you feel about the challenges of the new world we find ourselves in in year three? It was very different from year one and two, as I recall them, both in terms of development and in terms of just seeing what has that been like for you guys?
I mean, well, that's certainly been, I guess, since March. We had beginning of March, we had a full development team here. And then end of March, there was down to just me here by myself with everyone else connecting in remotely, which led to a lot of difficulties and challenges that we weren't necessarily had thought about in advance. Certainly, because we're such a small team, there's this sort of group knowledge, Mark's an expert in this system and Peter's an expert in that system and I'm an expert in this system. And if you need to find, you're working on something and it touches one of those systems, then you have to it's easy to just, reach over and tap someone on the shoulder and say, hey, how does this work? What should I be doing here? Can you give me some advice? And when everyone's remote and people are, you don't know if they're at their computer, or you start sending the messages and they don't respond, and then you start making guesses as to how things work. And that had just the whole loss of this sort of hive mind knowledge that we had, certainly had a really big impact on how one of the biggest features of the year, the motor automation, came together, which was a huge hurdle. And then I guess at this point, I guess September now, we actually very, very carefully reorganized the office so that we had about half as many people as we had here before, and we've got the development team back, but distanced quite a bit. And even just being able to shout now across the room at someone and get that information has really gotten us back on track. So.
Yeah, certainly in the last 2 months, we've been much more focused on bugs. Basically, since motor automation and multi-party play were released, we've been very, very focused on those bug lists and trying to make sure that we're addressing some of the biggest issues. We put up that big bug report system that lets players report bugs and upvote them if they also have them happening. And that's been very useful for us for prioritizing our fixes. And it's, I think, been very useful for the community to see all of the fixed issues that pop up on there. Because, we may have a few hundred open reports, but we also have dozens and dozens and dozens of fixes in every update we do.
Yeah, definitely. Like at the beginning of September, I was looking at that list when addressing an issue with a player. And I looked back through the list and I found that actually over the 30 previous days, we'd corrected nearly 100 issues that have been reported. So it's certainly things are getting fixed, but there's just it's a big list.
Yeah.
To help with that, actually, one of the things that we did do is we added a member to the team. So we now have another full-time developer on the game, which is great, and he's been working really hard on getting through the bugs that we've been throwing at him. So it's just one more developer grinding away, making those that bug list smaller and smaller.
And I guess, like, on that note, when you were developing, first of all, I guess taking it a step further back than I was going to, at the end of the year last year, when the Idle Champions in 2020 blog came out, and these are the things that we're looking at, were you envisioning the development cycles and cadence of releases for those things to be what they ended up being?
I had them in our document, and I actually was very, very ambitious with them. Certainly, we had the time gate stuff. We knew that was going to be very, very early in the year. We knew offline progress was going to be very, very early in the year. But we hoped that motor automation and multi-party play would be out sort of before June. We actually had the summer celebration, or the summer spectacular, scheduled several weeks before it happened the first time, and then it got bumped back because motor automation wasn't ready, and then it got bumped back again because motor automation wasn't ready. So yeah, my hope for that was more June-ish, early June-ish. So we dropped a couple of months on that, but not too bad. And now that we're going into the end of the year and we've done pretty much everything that we put on our list for 2020, we're kind of like, okay, well, what now? Guess we'll fix some bugs.
Yeah, we're going to get those bug fixed all done before we focus on a new major feature of any sort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right, Justin?
That's correct.
And Chris, you're listening?
He's probably not listening. If he's awake, he's probably heads down trying to get something done. Will we get to see an Idle Champions in 2021 blog or a Year 4 Idle Champions preview? What are your plans for just looking forward?
Yeah, I imagine once kind of the dust settles on all these bugs that we're currently fixing and all the features that we've added this year, that we'll look at doing one of those for the end of the year and talk about what we're thinking about in 2021. It's really hard to speculate on exactly what will be in that right now because, quite honestly, I haven't even started to think about it.
Oh.
So if you're hoping for spoilers of what's going to be coming out in Idle Champions in 2021, we can do some pie in the sky speculation and be like, what would be nice? But I can't guarantee anything, and I can't really speak to what we're kind of planning because that's like 3 months in the future, man. Like.
It's more like, yeah, 3 months and a bit, maybe. I don't know. It's I don't know. Time kind of. What is time now? It doesn't.
My brain's broken as far as math's concerned now.
I do know that talking with Chris, like there is a locked in schedule for champions through the end of the year, and then like a there's a few openings for next year, but not much. Like it's all
Yeah.
coming together really, really quickly. We just develop further and further out.
Yeah, Chris has done a great job of lining up all of our champions for all the year 4 events for sure. And so we do know what most of those are, and basically we just have to figure out where to slot them in. But as far as features go, no idea there.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be looking at some iteration on what's currently in the Modron system in terms of features. It's always been our plan to open up more than just 2 parties, so we'll certainly be seeing that happen over the course of year 4. And then what stems from that will probably be additional bugs, features, and not bugs. What did I say bug? Okay. Buffs, but I'm sure there'll be bugs too. Features and additional automation pieces other than the 3 automation that we currently have. I'm pretty sure Justin's got some ideas up his sleeves for those.
Are there any pie in the sky things that you would really like to see? That you hope that you'll be able to work towards? Not committing to anything, obviously. Just
if I can absolutely not commit to anything at all, I don't know. As soon as I say it, I've essentially committed to it. Like how this works.
Well, they cut the clip where they're saying non-committal, and then afterwards it's just like,
There's a couple of really cool things that have been on my plate for a while, but I'm not sure if we'll get to them in 2021. I know a lot of players have been asking for a kind of formation builder, which is a pretty massive system. And actually, part of the multi-party play system was designed with putting something like that in place eventually. So it's a possibility, but basically something where you could, experiment with every champion, with also all the gear, with whatever levels you want to put them at, however much gold you want to put them at. And then share those formations and see the popular formations that people have built and toss enemies against them and see how they do. But not confirmed, the Mickey. Not confirmed.
Yeah, I mean that was quite a bit of design work went into that, and it just it's still on the table.
Yeah,
I think that's actually probably one of the casualties of 2020 is the formation builder.
Yeah.
It was something that one of our students who was working on the Modron stuff was going to do before the Modron stuff started, and sort of that timeline expanded significantly, and so it fell by the wayside.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's been on my plate for a bit has been an expanded collections dialogue, where you can see more than just your loot. So see all the skins that you're missing, and the golden epics that have been available, and your adventure and patron progress all in one place. Basically just a dialogue full of progress boxes.
And the console players are asking, Justin, what's a collections dialogue?
Yes, well, we'll do one of those for the console UI as well.
Over the actually, before I get into the more fun questions, can you give our players, our audience, an idea of how it is that you plan out, just taking the Idle Champions in 2020 blog and the features that you wanted to do, and how is it that a feature like Modron automation goes from I think we can do this thing quickly, and this is a pretty simple feature, to the most complex feature we have in the game, outside the game, the initial formation strategy gameplay itself. How does it evolve through that process? What's that like?
Dave, you want to take a shot at this?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly it's a process that usually starts with an idea, whether it's coming from Justin or myself, being like, hey, we should add this feature to it, or we think this would be a neat addition that would allow us to do something that either something that we've been thinking of would be neat to go in, or something that the players have been asking for, and or something that addressed an issue that the players had been addressing or had been sort of voicing, but hadn't necessarily voiced a solution to it. And Modron automation in particular stemmed from watching a lot of players who've been scripting things and players who were not scripting looking at this being like, well, this isn't necessarily fair that I can't get all these additional, I can't set up my system to get gems, or I'm not comfortable doing that. And then we look at that and say, well, how can we balance for people who are not scripting the way these players were, and how can we balance for the players who don't, because it's a difficult thing to make fair. And so certainly Modron automation came from that idea of like, oh, we can take these common features that or common actions that the players have been scripting and give them to everybody. And I think with the Modron one initially, that's sort of where it started. And then I think in that very room that Justin is sitting in, on that very whiteboard, we started mocking up sort of what that could look like. And I'm not 100% sure where the sort of the pipe dream style piece came from.
I've been playing Spider-Man PS4.
That's true, but I think that came after. I mean, certainly that particular puzzle shows up in numerous games. Usually action games where I don't want to stop the action and solve them. It's really irritating. I love Spider-Man PS4, but that Modron, the pipe dream thing was just no, please. Anyway, I think like we just a couple of days in there brainstorming, writing down ideas on how it was going to work, just sort of going back and forth on what additional buffs we could do, where we could connect things, how it was going to actually integrate with the system. Sometimes you'd be surprised at how many times figuring out how it's actually going to integrate with the system shifts, what the feature is actually going to look like. Justin, I'm sure you've got things to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Modron animation and multi-party play, I think the lion's share of it taking longer than we expected happened in the multi-party play side of that, because certainly separating out everything in the game that has to do with your formation and the enemies and all that stuff, and making it so you can have two of those at once, ended up being probably the lion's share of the work on the multi-party and Modron automation release. So that became quite the monster of code and quite the monster of bugs and things to track down. And
that was a huge technical hurdle for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys thought it was a little bit buggy when it was released, you should have seen it 3 weeks before that.
Some lucky players did. Those who are in the beta testers channel.
Yes, our beta players can attest to that for sure.
Yeah. Certainly the complexity of the way the system is presented to the player side, like the Modron system itself with the pipes and then setting up the Modron actual automations, that came together fairly painlessly. So certainly it was the splitting the code into bifurcating it into, here's a portion that is the base game, and here's the portion that can run as an instance, and then here we're going to have multiples of those. But I think everything's worked out to the point now, fingers crossed, that we do open it up to 3 parties, it will be fairly painless. I promise. I don't
have any wood around here to knock on. What are you doing?
Some right here.
There isn't one of the desks that David made in that room?
No, it's one of the fancy.
The CNE stone one, right?
The CNE kind of stone, yeah.
It's
very cool looking. I wish you guys could see it, but you can't.
It's a spray paint epoxy pour. It's pretty sweet. But
I'd lift up this camera and like point it around, but like that would just be bad news.
Yeah, you'd never get it back into the same spot. That's what tends to happen. I pulled one off to show the streaming room once, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm leaving this on the desk and just turning it off because that's all I got.
Get a new one, throw it out, start again.
Yeah. So I have 2 different players asking questions related to endgame progression and endgame content. The first one is a question about whether or not there are discussions on reforming progress in the game. And what they mean is, are you eventually planning on adding 1,000 zones more, or are you planning on a movement to newer settings that are more hardcore difficulty levels that require more power and progression to move through? Similar to like a Modron unlock, but taking that as more of a base difficulty in new campaigns.
Yeah, I mean, each new campaign we've rolled out has been a little bit more difficult than the previous ones. Either the favor doesn't ramp up as fast, or the monster health ramps up a little bit faster. It's not super noticeable if you're just kind of crushing through it, but it is there. And then sort of the main place that we're adding difficulty at this point is with the patrons, right? So The patron variants are always several levels higher than the initial variants, and Strahd, I think, is up to like 100 levels higher than the initial ones. So as we add more patrons, which is something we're definitely planning to do, with the restrictions that those patrons have and the higher requirement, I think there will be a lot of very difficult content. I know there already is several variants that I think the number of players that have beaten them on patron variants for them is like can be counted on one hand kind of thing. So that's sort of one of the directions we want to go with difficulty. And certainly, yeah, I mean, just getting to those super high levels is something that eventually more and more players will be able to do. So we'll have to figure out sort of where it makes sense to balance our area requirements for objectives and all that stuff. But I think there's I mean, this 2021 could be spent on figuring out what exactly the late game is going to look like. Because like patrons, when we released them in year two, at the end of year 2, were kind of the initial late game pass. So they added more more restrictions on the variants and made them a bit harder. And so I think at this point, players are ready for a late game. So we'll see what that looks like.
Sorry.
And I would say, bear in mind, the going at the higher levels are still sort of locked to us until some technical hurdles are overcome on both versions of the client. And as that happens, which will be happening, I would imagine it will happen soonish, probably at least by the beginning of the next year, by 2021. And then that actually opens that up to us as something that we can expand into as well.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, we have been holding back on new blessings and new soft cap increases because we were dangerously close to the E308 problem on some platforms that do not yet support larger numbers.
Okay. And then the second part of that is, how do you, either one of you, feel about the current like end game strategy of using high favor and click damage with debuff champions to progress, noticeably further than you would with a traditional formation?
Yeah, click damage was actually something that we were looking at possibly nerfing with the release of Modron Automation, because we didn't want necessarily players to be able to set up just 2 familiars in a formation and have that go on. Because I mean, one of the big reasons we did multi-party play was so that more than just 10 of your champions would get to see the light of day. So we may still do something about click damage. I think it is. There are some issues with it, and the balance on it isn't quite right. But it's one of those things that's really, really hard to get exactly right. So I think we will probably do something about that at some point in the future, but we just have to be very careful about it, because as much as I like getting tons of angry emails,
well, Sean gets the emails now.
Emails.
Yeah, it'll certainly be an unpopular move, but I personally also feel that it's probably necessary, because it's just, if all you're doing at the end is just having click damage get you there, I think it's just not very interesting. That's the biggest crux on it. It's not that interesting. And I mean, I guess it's not interesting. It's probably not that much fun either, other than like making the number get bigger. You sort of taking away the puzzle. So
yeah. And I see there are some people who are talking in chat about some variants that you can only beat with click damage right now. And certainly as we have more blessings and more perks and more champion upgrades, those variants will become beatable through normal means. And certainly because of the way that patron restrictions are just kind of across the board, it's a very blunt instrument for adding difficulty. So there are certainly some variants that may just very well be unbeatable until there's sort of more power across the board. And we're not really taking the time when we roll out new variants to go through and ensure that there's some sort of special way that they're beatable through the current systems. We're just sort of assuming that we will continue to add power, and they will get beatable.
Okay. On the topic of adding power, because I know somebody's going to ask it, additional blessings, additional soft caps, that kind of stuff. Is there an ETA on any of those things, or is that a 2021 kind of thing?
Well, it's basically that tech hurdle that I mentioned earlier. That's what, as Justin mentioned, is holding us. We're holding back on that because we're so close to hitting that big number limit right now.
Okay.
But as soon as that's taken care of, those things will start flowing again.
And then on the subject of extraordinarily difficult variants that are beatable by a hand's worth of people, can you give some examples of which variants those are?
There was a Strahd one that was mentioned actually just in the chat here. No, maybe not. But yeah, certainly some of the Strahd ones. I mean, there are some variants where, depending on the patron, you're just restricted down to like a handful of champions, and that's just not enough to get through 600 areas worth of combat. So so yeah, I mean, it's some of the harder Strahd ones, I think, are the ones that are very close to unbeatable right now.
It's because we have so many charisma-based champions and not enough intellect-based champions.
A lot of, I mean, we have a lot of champions based on content creators, and for some reason, these big personalities like their champions to have high charisma. I don't know what it is.
Well, charisma is the most, probably I would say, the most popular stat in 5e across like all of the classes. Like, 3 caster classes and a martial class all using it is a lot. Anyways, we're not here to talk about 5e balance. One player was asking about, there's a few questions about Modron automation and balance. One of them was asking about, with the strong Modron core, the second one that you unlock, why does it need to get leveled up to level 3 before you can automate with it? What was the thought process behind that?
I'm just trying something new. I mean, I wouldn't say there was like an intention behind that, aside from what if we had a core that couldn't automate right away? What if you had to work a little bit at it and use it kind of manually before it was opened up to automation? And we've got a couple of different ideas with where to go for that. Like one of the things we actually support in Modron cores right now that we haven't used in either of the cores is the ability to have multiple automation tiles or components which unlock different parts of the automation. So we could have one that unlocks like the auto formation, one that unlocks the auto reset, and one that unlocks the buffs, and sort of dole that out over time. Or, as Dave said, if we add more automation mechanics over time, it could unlock those ones as well over time. So I mean, there's a lot of cool things we can do with that, and I think we'll continue to kind of experiment with each of the cores that we roll out and try and do something new with each of them that previous cores didn't do.
Yeah, and I think additionally, like it's a big jump to go to level 3 from the first one, which was level 1. But I think that very first core, the purpose of having that first automation be literally 2 tiles away from the outflow was just so that it's an example one. It's sort of, here's your first one and this is how it works. You can just learn by doing on like, I put 2 tiles down and now I've got the automation, and then sort of it would progress from there. So I don't know, I'm not 100% sure what Justin's feelings were on that, but that it would have been, if it was something that was made more clear, maybe you're having to earn that first automation just through just a smaller action might have made more sense for the first core. But it was really here's an example. This is how it works. The first one is free.
And then just on the topic of Modron automation, before moving on to something else, now that players have 2 cores and can operate 2 formations at the same time, there's a lot more familiars available and a lot more familiars needed. Are we planning to add additional gem familiars or familiars unlocked through means other than purchasing them in the in-game shops?
Yeah, I mean, we've added, since we released Modron automation, we've added, I think, another 6 non-premium familiars, because we added 3 to the patron shop and we added 3 more gem ones. So, I mean, of course, over time, we will continue to add more gem ones and more premium ones and more patrons drop ones and all that stuff over time. It's something that will just sort of naturally build up over time.
And how long until we get a patron, a familiar battling system and leveling them up? Is that going to happen?
I think that's around when we release the Cataclysm event.
Oh, nobody liked that update.
Yeah, that wasn't my favorite one. Okay, what else? I'm just trying to. There's a bunch of questions here, but I'm just trying to look the ones that are similar and group them together. On the subject of patrons, do we have an ETA on additional patrons? I know Chris mentioned that a certain Archduke may eventually become one of our patrons, but there's no ETA on it. Do you have an idea of not just when they're coming, but like how frequently you would want to release something like that? Because they're obviously, each one represents a significant amount of content.
Yeah, I don't have an ETA. I mean, I wish I'd known that you'd be looking for ETAs before this, because I would have tried to think about ETAs. All I can tell you is I know when the events are coming out in the next year, and that's about the only ETA I know. But certainly, as far as patrons are concerned, we definitely want to be releasing at least one a year, if not sort of like two, like every sort of 6 to 8 months would be sort of an ideal range for me. I'm not sure if Dupuis has slotted some onto the schedule somewhere, that next patron.
I don't know. That's why I asked. There's the question right here, and I'm like, oh.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you got to get him in here. He says soon, TM.
Okay.
So who knows what that means?
That's a good answer.
I think that could be one of the next sort of major pieces of content, just because it's a relatively straightforward thing for us. It's a known quantity for us to do a new patron. It's generally not a lot of new tech, doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't introduce a lot of bugs. So I could definitely see one of those coming out in the next few months. Just looking at the date here, yes, in the next few months I could see one of those coming out.
Okay. All right. This is a really good question, but it's a tough question.
Ooh.
How? This is from one of our longtime show watchers. I don't know, audience members. How do you balance unpopular decisions with the health of the game? I asked this also with the Year 4 events and opinions about floating around and Twitch drops, and just they're just kind of curious, like, how do you, I guess, what's your approach to balance, and how do you tackle those harder decisions?
I mean, that's a really good question, and a lot of it's just kind of, for me, is based off of my gut and sort of what I think will be better for the game. Sometimes we do analysis based off of actual metrics and analytics and stuff.
Yeah.
Weird thing that we hired for like a year or two ago. But for the most part, it's just sort of Dave and I have been making games with Codename for 12 years now. And so we've just got quite a bit of experience about what we find fun and what it appears that players find fun. And also the other side of that is which things aren't fun. And what things seem fun at first, but actually in the long run aren't fun. Because, I mean, our goal with Idle Champions is for it to be a game that you can play for a very long period of time. And so many of the choices we make are based off of like, well, if we add this thing that players will really love, it'll actually just kind of, they'll love it now, but it'll ruin it for them in 3 months. Because they'll get too much power, or they'll be able to finish everything too quickly, or we won't be able to keep up with the rate at which they consume content. And so we have to sort of balance what we think is going to be good for the health of the game now versus what's going to be good for the health of the game in a year.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest one for me, right? Is that you look at it and say, if we don't do this now, are we painting ourselves into a corner going forward? Like, is this how are we going to overcome this? As you're saying, like a year from now, or even in many cases, like 3 months from now, sort of. If it's something that does look like the course of it is going to lead to things just being closed off to us, or by making features that were interesting previously no longer interesting because it just eclipses them, then yeah, and you say, okay, well, we'll take this out now, and we'll know that for the long term, it's going to remain healthy. So yeah, I think it's just looking forward and making sure that what we've done doesn't paint us into a corner. And if it looks like we are starting to paint ourselves into a corner, even if we know that sort of erasing those lines, backing up, pouring a little turpentine on it, which will of course upset some of the players, or in some cases all of the players, that we know that we actually have a path forward after that. Because certainly if we were going into a corner, then there's no path forward after that for that particular thing. So
Yeah, and one of the things we try and do is be as transparent as we can be about why we're making decisions that aren't very popular. So, I mean, a good example, the obvious example, is of course the year 4 events, which are starting up next year. And there's definitely a set of players that would like us to have all 4 years of champions in them. But I mean, we've gone ahead and we've explained our thinking for just having the most previous 3 years. And I mean, we mentioned that thinking a year ago, kind of right around now, when we sort of tried something for the first year 3 event and that didn't really work out. And then we went back to the drawing board and thought, okay, so players didn't like that approach to it, but what can we do that we think will still be good for the game, that will maybe be a little bit more palatable for people?
yeah.
So definitely we try to be transparent. We try to listen to our players when they do have complaints, and try and weigh what they want against what we think the game needs.
Yeah, I don't think there's been too many cases where we've had to make major changes like that. Just thinking back, I think the original fire breath potions or something that needed to change.
We did need to nerf those.
And it was one of those things where when we did it, we knew certainly it was going to, we didn't want to take away what people had actually earned and had. So we ended up grandfathering those in, which is sort of a nice way to I guess, ease the pain on that one. It's sort of like, we're not taking away what you have. We're just no longer going to be including that because it breaks the game. And of course, had it continued that way, it would have really cut off certain difficulty avenues, and we would have had to. I'm not actually sure how we would have worked around that particular one. So when we do make changes like that, we try to make sure they're not make sure that players know that they're coming, and b try to be delicate about it.
Yeah. I mean, certainly. I mean, the fire breath potion, we didn't actually let people know it was coming because we actually wanted to be a little bit sneaky about that. So we didn't want people to be hoarding them. But definitely with other ones, we've certainly done that. And I would say, what was I going to say? I was going to say something, and I've forgotten it. Okay. I was going to say something very profound. It was going to be really good, guys.
I got two questions that are more in Dave's wheelhouse. One of them, well, they're both UI related. One of them is about blacksmith contract screens and being able to see champions and their item levels and the item levels of their equipment in a consolidated space, which is something that people request a lot. But then the other one,
heard that request before. Certainly not every single morning from Sean in the stand-up.
Yeah, and then the other one. Just on a sort of similar note, another long-standing request, formation circles and the visibility of their buffs and tank health and stuff like that. Do we have any plans related to either of those things?
No plans related to either of those things, but certainly, it's probably Erica actually that mentions the item levels thing every morning, not Sean. But both of those things are sort of on my radar. I did actually have kind of a list of things for redoing the formation circles and the buff icons and the health displays at one point, but then I think that just got railroaded out of existence by other tech we were working on at the time. So yeah, both of those things are on the radar, and I should spend a little bit more time thinking about.
Certainly, the blacksmith screen could have a quality of life update to it. I know the health bar thing has been a long-standing request / sort of been on the list, but it's also been one of those things. And actually, I had this conversation with our new hire, Jarrett, just a couple of days ago, because he'd been playing and noticing that. When you're right up against your wall and you're hoping to be able to use an ability to push forward, if your tank, if you can't see their health, it can be a bit touch and go. And I know, like I said, I know people have been talking about this for a long time. When we look at the way sort of that gets laid out, it's always felt like there's never really a good answer that isn't going to sort of look weird. But additionally, it's one of those cases where you're in that situation, you're not really going to be pushing much further, and your best answer is actually to go back an area and build up and then go forward again. So it's sort of a nice to see, but I'm not 100% sure that it would be all that beneficial just overall in terms of like, is it really helping your gameplay? You'd end up looking at it, you'd try putting your ultimate off on that, you might get one area forward, and then you'd still find yourself backing up and powering up again. So that's sort of always where it's landed, is sort of like, we don't have a good visual solution for it, and it doesn't actually impact that. At least that's my take on it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it would have more of an impact, but it's always been my feeling that you'd end up back an area powering up anyway. I don't know, Justin, you thoughts? No,
I got distracted by all of the anniversary spam in chat. So,
so I mean, there's a lot of questions here, but I'm gonna try and stick to the ones that only you guys can answer. Do we have any plans to stop adding Steam achievements?
No.
What's the answer? No, we didn't.
Why?
That's an easy one.
Do they want us to, or are they saying they want more?
I'm not sure. I know. We get a lot of requests from console players to have more achievements, and then Steam players are like, "There's more achievements every update. Like, don't stop."
My guess is people have 100%ed the game on Steam, and they get the little, they can be, they fill that progress bar, and then 3 weeks later we go and go, nope, not full.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's fair.
We are limited on console, are we not, in terms of like how many we can have, and that's why they.
That's a great question for Peter. I think there's a certain number of like the gamer points that we're allowed to have. And I think when we can only add more if we add expansions to the game. I'm not 100% sure. That may have changed since we went out on console, but I know that was an issue right when we were releasing.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas Steam has no such limitations. So
yeah,
I keep waiting to go into the Steam thing and hit add achievement and to go, nope, no more. And then I have to make a question about which ones we keep and don't.
Has there ever been any thought to doing something similar to what World of Warcraft does in having a numbers squish to like just across the board to deal with the larger numbers?
No, we have not. We've got tech in place on several of the platforms to handle numbers up to, I don't even know what the limit of a quad is, e to the something super high, to a number we will never ever reach, knock on wood. So, I mean, one of the big things about idle games is just the numbers getting bigger and bigger. So doing a squish would be counterproductive to that goal.
Okay. Let's see.
But with that said, we did do a health squish at one point, but that's a whole other balance thing.
Let's see. There's a lot of suggestions about other possible things that we could do with Modron cores, like things that or blessings that impact Modron cores in progress, or Modron cores that allow you to speed up offline progress, or all kinds of different stuff. So lots of suggestions. Yeah. They all seem to be speed related.
The speed of offline progress is one thing that we're planning to focus on once we've kind of gotten through sort of more of the major bugs. We want to try and get that as close as we can to the speed of when you're online. I don't think it'll ever be possible to make it one-to-one, because the way that offline progress works, it doesn't actually fully simulate absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. But I think we can get it a lot closer than it is right now.
Yeah, and that actually has been something that we've been focusing on over the last, 4 to 6 weeks now, just to try and make sure that offline party isn't egregiously out of line. And at this point, we've gone through a handful of minor bugs that were affecting it. And I think a week and a bit ago, we got an update in that we actually greatly increased the rate at which familiars upgrade your champions while you're in offline progress, which we don't have the numbers back yet in terms of sort of how much that's affected players, but that definitely would have been slowing progress down. So we're continuing to look at it.
Yeah, I think we've covered most of the cases where your offline progress will stop before it should. And at this point, it's just kind of a speed thing that we have to address, where it's when you've got those speed champions in there, when you've got your sentry and your Briv and whatnot, we want to make sure that those ones are working properly with offline progress.
Okay. So we got a question here that's also a bunch of compliments.
Oh,
I know,
okay.
right?
If you insist.
Hi, gentlemen. Ashara's update was a welcome change that definitely opened her up to new formations. Can you give us some insight at what inspired this update and what the team's philosophy to updating characters to be more versatile when moving forward into the next year? Thank you for an awesome game.
Yeah, the Ashara updates were based off of us forgetting to add goblins to a bunch of things when we released Lazabs. And going through and retroactively trying to fix all of the racial things that we had missed in the game over the last 6 to 8 months or so when we were all distracted by motor animation stuff. So yeah, we went through and we added goblins to a bunch of stuff. We updated a bunch of specializations, and I was actually quite happy that we were able to kind of bump up Ashara's power a bit, because it added someone who was a little bit more competitive into slot 6 and broke Kroll's monopoly on that slot a little bit.
Did it, though?
So it was, well, a little bit. As soon as we fix Ulcoria, oh my God. But yeah, so there's, I mean, in terms of our philosophy around doing those updates, it's nice when we can just kind of randomly fit them in between events and content updates. It's not generally the normal way that we do it. Normally, we'll do balance updates all in one big patch and make a big whole thing about it and give you a list of patch notes as long as my arm. But in this case, it was just kind of a secondary effect of us going through and trying to account for some of the new champions we'd added over the last year or so. Someone there was asking about Ulcoria being broken. Yeah, Ulcoria's the 9+ spellcasters buff in Watchful Order, I think it is supposed to increase the base amount of her buff, not the post stack value. So it's supposed to be like an E to the 13 or 14 buff, not a 3 times buff. So hopefully that'll get fixed. I think I gave that to Jacob or Peter, one of them, which should give it quite a bit more power.
Okay. This is a question for David that he's never heard before.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Is it about borderless windows?
Are there any plans to add borderless or windowed full screen? Would be a nice quality of life for those with 2+ monitors that are used to playing other games as well.
So it is set to that in the Unity build settings. So it will require a little more digging to find out exactly what isn't working there and why. But there aren't an awful lot of options available in that build settings dialog. So the alternative is full screen as opposed to windowed full screen. So, I mean, if we have extra cycles, I'll take a look at it. But it's been one of those items that's been there's 2 options in this drop down, and I'm in the one that says windowed full screen. I don't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. Do we have plans to update the in-game credit screen to include the newer members of the team? Sure.
Yeah, we could do that, I guess. I don't know. Have they really proven themselves yet?
I don't know. I mean, literally only you guys could tell us that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's something. I think we've reviewed the credit screen twice maybe since we released. So definitely something else we got to look at.
Does that mean that Moiky Moik is still on there?
Probably. I mean, he should. They will.
Not that he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But on the game, you get to be in the credits.
Yeah.
Just adding the new people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's definitely something we can look at doing.
Okay. Let's see.
We should make one of them do it.
See if that's the straw that breaks his back.
Okay. When designing a new adventure or variant, do you have a specific amount of favor in mind as optimal for it?
No, we don't. we do not. The difficulty levels of adventures and variants and the what it shows in game for the difficulty are sort of 2 things that are very kind of hand wavy at this point. I really would like to find a way to properly represent the difficulty of an adventure before you go in it. But I'm not sure exactly how to go about that. The best idea I have right now is just to watch the first sort of 10 people that beat it and use their kind of favor levels to kind of average some stuff out. Just because there's so many factors that go into how hard an adventure is, right? Like, it's not the same for every player. Like, you could have a variant that restricts which champions you can use, and then based on what champions player A has unlocked, it could have a totally different difficulty from player B, who has a different set of champions unlocked. And so it's something that's really, really hard to do, and a really, really complex calculation to actually get it to work. But at the same time, we show it there, so we really ought to find a way to, to represent it better. But it's always been a bit of a lower priority.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those ones where we've discussed it on numerous occasions, not recently, but early on for certain. And it's the who you actually have available that really mucks it up, right? Because if everyone had the same champions and they were the same and had the same item levels, then it would be much easier to actually get an average for it. And then added to that is sort of the strategy to it as well, right? Like, if your formation is off by just a little bit for that, it could be, bone crushingly hard, but with the correct adjustments could be trivially easy. And of course, if you come in and you don't know that the formation that's going to make it trivially easy, well, it's still going to crush you. You're still going to be upset that it said it was easy and you couldn't complete it. I mean, I think that difficulty is really just a general sense, and I think that's all it's ever going to be able to be. Not unless we had started cataloging data from every single player's formations and how close they were to yours, and you could make a comparison and say they did this ahead of time and they did it fine and they had these champions, so you should be able to do it. But it would be a pretty broad.
So you're saying we should assign this to the analytics team?
Yeah, it's like an AI problem.
Put all the data in
machine learning problem. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll let them know.
This one's related to events in future years. Once a champion has left an event, you're in year 5 or 6 or even year 4, will players still be able to complete the champion-specific event achievements for that year? Yes.
Yeah. So actually, there's not really any that are specific to that year. The closest one is maybe the one to reach area whatever in free play, and that one you'll actually still get credit for it. So if a player comes in year 10 and gets to area 225 or 275 or whatever, they'll probably get 10 achievements for that, which will be great for them. Maybe a little bit confusing, but yeah, there will be no event achievements that'll be locked out due to champions rotating out.
Okay. And then, since I know you guys have other things to be doing, and we're getting close to the 2 o'clock, let's go through some easier questions. Starting with between the two of you, either one of you, actually, both of you, which champions that came out over the last year during year 3 are your favorites, and why?
Ooh, I'll go first so that Dave can try to think of a champion that came out.
No, I'm going first. I really like Lazaps. And it's
the most recent one.
It's because of the name, but also it's a really cool champion. Like, the design is really cool. So
yeah, one of the funny things about Lazaps is that as we were designing her, we would just continue to add A's to the middle of the name in all of the documents. So I think at one point it was Lazaps. We need this Lazaps Loottron or whatever.
I think that's my fault. I started that because it was just 2 A's, and then Chris sent it to me, and I said, actually, Eberron goblins use double vowels, and he's like, oh yeah. And then then stuff happened.
My favorite is Sesaspia. She was a CNE original, much like Lazaps, and she's had a really cool look and really cool mechanics with her spores and infecting things, and she's an evil healer, only one in the game. So
Yeah, because the evil cleric doesn't heal.
No, of course not. It's not really on brand for Curl.
No, it makes sense. Death Domain clerics don't really cast healing spells very much. They're too busy killing everything. Okay, and do you have a favorite event that comes out each year in terms of I don't know bosses or aesthetic or art or which of the events is your favorite?
My favorite event is Fleet's Wake, because that is I did the design and the adventure outline for that one, and that was the first time I went to Wizards and I was like, okay, we want to use this adolescent kraken, but like looking in the source material, it's like a level like, or actually no, it wasn't even an adolescent kraken at the time. It was like, I want to use a kraken at the end of this, but looking in the source material, it's like a difficulty 25 monster, and it would just crush everything. And I know you guys don't want us using like these ridiculously hard monsters, and they're like, you know what? No, that adventure is pretty cool. Just do whatever you want and just use like a really hard kraken. It's fine. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be really fun. So definitely that one.
Yeah, I guess same question. So, I'm going to embarrass myself here because having focused on nothing but Modron systems for the last 6 months, I haven't actually been playing any of the recent event content.
There's an event about Modrons.
Well, that's not the point. Although I have to say, I was helping one of our new co-op students the other day, and I'd gone over and he was playing at one of the boss levels that we'd done recently. That I actually hadn't had a good chance to take a look at yet, and it's the tentacle snake flowery thing that's just pulling the play. And I'm going to be off because I don't remember the name of it, but I thought, man, that's amazing. So we've really been kicking it up a notch on the boss tech.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, the zombie T-Rex set a bar.
Yes.
It set it pretty high right from the get-go.
It's the Neolithid is what they're saying in chat.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong.
Yeah. It looks kind of like a purple worm, and it keeps grabbing players out of the formation and eating them. Yeah. That one's fun. On the subject of events, actually, somebody just asked, will events ever be retired? Will there ever be new events in their place?
We do not have any plans to do that. So, no, hopefully. I think there would have to be something pretty extraordinary to cause us to retire an event.
Yeah, because that leaves
I can't think of anything.
The problem of not being able to get those champions easily, and it also leaves us with a gap. So yeah, obviously we could replace it with something in that sense, but yeah, that'd be a big problem for players.
I can't see a circumstance where we would do that.
Okay, and then another challenging question. How difficult is it to balance free-to-play monetization within the game as you'd like to present it?
Yeah, that's another thing that we just sort of do a little bit on gut, because we've been making free-to-play games for 12 years since our first little experiments on Facebook back in the day. So we kind of think like, what would we buy in a free-to-play game? Does that seem reasonable? Mm-hmm. We very much try not to gate power or anything like that behind money, with the exception of golden epics, which you can just dump a couple hundred blacksmith contracts on someone and get the same effect. But yeah, I think it just comes down to kind of what do we think is reasonable as players ourselves. As players of free-to-play games, we really try not to be like evil about it. I mean, it sounds kind of cliche, but like, we don't want to be dicks. We want everyone to enjoy the game equally, whether you support us with your money or you support us with your time. We're equally happy, and so I think sure that there's stuff for both of you.
I would say, like, from my perspective, what's most important to me is that when you buy something, that you feel like you got good value for your purchase. That you feel good about what you got. So it has to be added. It has to add enough to your game that you don't regret having purchased it. So that's sort of there's a balance point there, and that's sort of what we try to hit. Or at least sort of from my perspective, that's what we try to hit.
Cool. And then finally, is there anything that you guys want to say to the community before I let you go?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're always very, very thankful for our community. They're very, very, you guys are very, very supportive of each other and of us, and we very much appreciate that. We actually have a channel in our internal company chat that is restricted for purely just positive feedback, so that everyone in the company can see like when people are happy with things, when people are saying nice things, and that channel gets a lot of content, and we're very, very appreciative of that. And so yeah, like thank you for playing, and we hope you keep on playing, and we hope we continue to create stuff that you like. And if you don't like it, I'm sure we will hear about it, and we will we will take your feedback into consideration.
What happened to if you don't like it? That's too bad. I'm kidding. No, definitely. Same sentiment. Thanks for all the support, and from my end, thanks for all the bug reports. Got a very supportive Discord that just loves to send them our way. And it is actually very helpful. So I know I sound somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but it definitely gets things fixed. So thanks to everyone.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for taking some time out of your afternoon to join me on stream. Have a good rest of your day, and I will move on to showing off the confidential box now.
Ooh.
Yeah. David's actually seen what's in it, but Justin hasn't yet.
I'll have to
tune in, twitch.tv/CD Games. You'll find out what's in the box.
What's in the box?
Thanks very much, Dylan.
Have a good one.
Thanks, everyone else.
All right. Bye-bye. So I actually closed the game during that because there was a driver conflict. Zoom and things don't behave as much as I would like them to these days. But the other thing is that I have this box. But before I show what's in the box, I want to talk a little bit about this here Tabaxi Rogue. It's a WizKids Icons of the Realms Premium Mini. So we are giving away one of these every day. And this is the one from yesterday to today, I think. The giveaway for it actually started yesterday, and then but I think the link didn't get shared everywhere, or there's a typo, or it was misscheduled or something like that. So we're giving away one of these every day through the stream next week. I got a pile of them here, courtesy of those awesome folks at WizKids. Boom, check these out. My favorite one is this here, Goliath Fighter, which I'm pretty sure is going to be the final one we give away. But first up, Tabaxi Rogue. There is a link that should be shared in chat for it. The winner will have it shipped to them, and it'll magically show up through the power of postage. Yeah. So, good luck. And as for the box, so, I don't know how many of you know V or follow V on Twitter, V from WizKids, but V sent us a few care packages a while back. And among the things in those care packages were this handsome boy, a Chardon dragon, which you can find in the new Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden book that came out on Tuesday. She also sent us this adult white dragon. It's probably hard, like there's so much glare from all the lights and stuff that it's hard to see through the packaging to see it, but it looks awesome. And honestly, as soon as those things showed up, the fires of greed were lit in the eyes of people who were here, and there's like, there's no way we're letting those go. Although the contents of the other boxes are all coming. Somebody in chat asking what they weigh. The adult white dragon is not very heavy. This chunky boy is actually probably a couple pounds. He is not lightweight. but it looks amazing. It looks really, really darn good. And this box is coming. I don't know exactly when all the contents of this are available, but I do know that what's in here represent a lot of the monsters that are coming as part of Icewind Dale: Rime of the Frostmaiden. So, alas. Oh boy. This box is too big for this setup. There's a bunch of goodies here, right? So, I'm going to show off a few of them. I'm not going to show everything that's in here, but I will show off some of the things. Oh, man. Oh, there's tape there. That's why I couldn't get that off. All right. So, first things first. Snowy owlbear sitting on his haunch. How cute is that? Right? A Goliath werebear. Pretty cool, right? Let's see. I definitely want people to have an opportunity to get minis and look into minis, and I don't want to spoil everything that's in here. There's this character, which you might recognize from the cover of the new book. And I think my favorite one in here is this a frost giant skeleton. How dope is that? Oh, looks cool, right? What else we got? There's one of the new monsters in the book, a tomb horror, which is this giant dude with a mouth in his stomach and a great big hammer. Can't really tell you anything about tomb horrors, but scary looking. And this abominable yeti looks seriously awesome. Look at that. Super cool. What else do we have? This one was a surprise. I was not expecting to see this in here. An orca. Well, it's a killer whale, is how it's labeled. But yeah, an orca. There's an orca. Although it's pretty fitting, given Margaret's discussion yesterday about how one of the animals that hunts moose actively is orcas, because moose like to swim, or whatever that was. That's just like crazy fact of craziness that was super random and was unexpected. What else do we have here? I have a Duergar here, and there's a couple other monsters that you can see from Icewind Dale: Rime of the Frostmaiden. A frost salamander. And there's a dragon here, but it's a young dragon, and it's not assembled. So I'll just kind of hold this together because it could be glued together. But there's a young white dragon. Very cool stuff. Shout out to V for sending this our way. And yeah, we actually have a bunch more stuff that we'll be giving away, but some of it's timed to some other things that we know are coming up. So what I'll do is I'll take some photos of these, and we'll share them on our social media so that you guys can see the rest of this here, the WizKids Confidential box. There are some spoilers though. If you are going to play through Icewind Dale: Rime of the Frostmaiden, there are some spoilers in some of the stuff that's in there, so just keep that in mind. So, while I get some other things set up, I should probably switch over to this fun thing that we did. Now, I don't know how many of you know who Luke McKay is, but Luke McKay is an awesome artist, cartoonist, comic artist that we sometimes do some work with, and he put together this one for our third anniversary. He and I bounced ideas around for a while, and ultimately settled upon having our co-founders featured in the Idle Champions Tavern, the one that you normally see behind me, as well as the first C&E original champion. So like this tavern, they're in this tavern right here, which we thought would be really, really fun to do. In the meantime, what my party is doing is they are doing Tiamat's army, and they're just kind of plucking away at this variant. I saw somebody asking when I was talking about the giveaway for the Tabaxi Rogue, for the pre-painted minis, whether or not you need to re-enter each day. Yes, you will. It is not one draw that you enter and then every day a name gets drawn. You will have to enter each time. They are separate. That's how it was set up. But yeah, we'll ship it. We've only had, I think, maybe one instance of not being able to ship one of our prizes abroad. I want to say it was Australia, I think, somewhere in Australia where it got bounced back to us. But and I might be wrong, but in every other case, we've been able to get whatever we sent out. Let's see. Starfish 711. Dylan, do you know where in the timeline this Icewind Dale stuff sits? Trying to reconcile it with the Drizzt timeline. I don't. While I have had a peek at the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden book, as per our, because we get to look at a lot of stuff in advance. I haven't picked up my copy yet. I'm actually picking up my copy this weekend from my local hobby store, because I wanted one of the ones with the Hydro 74 cover. So I actually don't know where in the timeline the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign takes place. I do know that pretty much everything in 5e takes place in like this relatively, I don't want to say narrow window, but like more or less around the same time-ish. So I would expect that the most recent books that R.A. Salvatore put out, the new trilogy with Zach Defane, I would expect has not occurred as of these adventures. But that is an assumption on my part. I don't know. Yeah. Now I'm gonna kind of double back over the questions that we got while Justin and David were on that I didn't get to, because some of them were ones that can be answered by people other than Justin and Dave, and some of them are ones that I might know the answers to. So I'm just going to quickly go for that. Let's see. I know one player asked about speed champions that have golden epics that increase their ability, but how some don't, like including Briv. Briv is a tank support healing speed champion. So I mean, at this point, he does enough. Like, he is a profoundly versatile character in a way that no other champion is. Like, everybody's got a niche role, but he's kind of great in a lot of situations. So right now we're happy with Briv. Happy with Briv, and also happy with I don't know how many of you caught it, but Adam Bradford of D&D Beyond put out a cover, a sort of a tribute, a song to Briv Steelmarrow, taking some of the music from Hamilton. That is super awesome. I highly recommend checking it out if it's still allowed to be up on YouTube. I don't know. It was very cool. Anyways, yeah. Briv good. Let's see. What else do we have? One player, Jay Barrett, asked about considering Dungeons and Dragons' huge roster of characters. How do you choose who to add when adding a new champion? And then also asked about Heroes of the Lance, to which I am happy somebody asked. But there are no plans to add any characters from Kryn to our game. And if there were, gosh darn it, it would be Raceland Majir first. There are a lot of D&D characters. These days, we tend to more frequently look towards emergent characters from the most current published material, which is to say, like, there are characters in the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden book that we've looked at and are considering whether or not to make them into champions in the game. There are characters in currently published IDW comic books that we're looking at, bringing to the game. Like, yes, we've added the Heroes of Baldur's Gate. There are other comics, other D&D comics that are awesome, that have rad characters. And so, in short, there's no shortage of characters. There are a lot of options, but we most frequently tend to lean towards the ones in the most recent books. So you'll notice that our next characters are, one of them is a raging Minotaur, coming up next week, actually. This guy here. He's coming next week. But Torrigar and before him Krull are two characters from the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus book. And you wouldn't like them when they get angry. Because they can also rage. And then obviously there was Azaka Stormfang and Dragonbait from the Tomb of Annihilation book. And Okoria Stonemarrow, who was in the Waterdeep Dragonfeist book. So there's a number of, we're definitely leaning more towards really recently published stuff. That's just kind of what we look to the most. That being said, when we have a good opportunity to use a more legacy lore character, we will. I see a lot of people asking, like, what slot is Torrigar going in? You'll have to wait for the Torrigar Champion Spotlight, which will be either late this week or early next week. There's a lot going on this week, which might push the Spotlight back. But yeah. Let's see what else. Should we expect... I know those some balancing questions that I can't answer. See. Any thoughts of leaderboards, maybe for variance or time or makeup of team, etc.? No. We've very deliberately kind of shied away from stuff like that, because we want to focus. We focus on the fact that this is a single player experience, and so things like leaderboards, in any way, tracking multiple players and how far they're getting, all that kind of stuff. It's just not stuff that we're looking to do. Yeah. Let's see. Somebody's asking about the cube. Since there's no more gelatinous cube, #RipCube, thoughts on recreating the C&E Tavern for an event booth in the future? So we did, actually, Garwar. Or rather, we started to. Our booth at the Stream of Many Eyes in June 2018, I think that event was, or late May, June 2018. When they built a set out of Waterdeep that included like a courtyard and the famous Gil the blacksmith in the middle, like actually with his blacksmith stuff, and then we shared. We were next door to the debut of Beetle and Grimm's Pandemonium Warehouse, and then across the way we had Roll20's Scrollery and some other stuff. It was very cool. But we had a sort of lounge with hanging Idle Champions banners. And so I have one of them right here. Oh, God. it's awkward to do this and try to hold it on frame at the same time. And so we had a couple of these, which we managed to salvage from that booth as everything got torn down at the end of the event. Now, actually making a booth into the full-on Idle Champions Tavern, I love it. I don't know that we'd be able to have fire, but that that's a good idea. I like that idea, Garwar. There's too much shit on my desk right now. I'm gonna knock stuff over. Yeah, that would be fun. In the event that in the possible scenario where there are events and conferences that we can attend in the future, certainly doing the Idle Champions Tavern is a possibility. That would be fun. Dylan, what are your recommendations for the first blessings to unlock for new players? The first tier, and especially the first global blessings in each of the campaigns. Oh, excuse me, because each one doubles your overall damage, and that's absolutely huge right at the start. So in Grand Tour of the Sword Coast, that's double damage, and in Tomb of Annihilation, it's legendary champions. And in Dragon Heist, that's Defending Waterdeep. And then in Descent into Avernus, it's Darkest Before the Light. You want these ones. The right column of blessings are the ones that are global, that affect you everywhere in every part of the game that you play. So those first. Other global blessings are good in different ways. But the ones that increase damage are the most important ones. And then in the Grand Tour of the Sword Coast, there's this one, Gem Hunter, which increases the gems dropped by bosses +1 over all campaigns, which adds up to a lot over time. And then the final one, the Tier 4 one, the Start All Events with 2,500 more event tokens, is also an awesome one. Those two are in Grand Tour of the Sword Coast. I recommend those. It makes an event a lot quicker and easier to just get started when you don't have to wait for event tokens before you can get rolling. So. Yeah, those are my recommendations. Okay, question: do you think it could be possible to get guests from development teams of other Forgotten Realms games, past or present? Trent Oster from BioWare/Beamdog, Sven Vinke from Larian, or some of the Gold Box games. That would be a lot of fun. I think we did have Trent on stream once. God, a long time ago. We that was in 2018, and we mostly talked about his Minsk cosplay because, for those who don't know, Trent Oster is a Minsk-sized man, and where Beamdog is located is very close to someone who with the capabilities of, I can't remember what their actual business was. I can't remember. It was like, they said it was like one of the storefronts downstairs. They just had somebody who had the skill set. And so they made the most amazing Minsk cosplay for Trent. And he, got up super early every morning for the Stream of Many Eyes and had a bald cap put on and his head painted. And then other than that, he's just built like Minsk. And he just rolled in wearing this amazing cosplay. And this cosplay was so legendary that my first experience of Chris Perkins was sitting beside, I was either sitting beside Eric or Clive in the green room at the Stream of Many Eyes. And Chris Perkins ran up and said, "Have you guys seen that Minsk yet?" And then he just ran away. and somebody else from the D&D team was like, "Wow, I've never seen him that excited." And then Trent walked up and we're like, "That's awesome." It was also hot. It was so hot that week that Trent would go and he would just sit down directly in front and pull the fan in the green room right up to him and just sit there because he was wearing 50 pounds of leather because he was wearing leather and mail armor but with real leather. It was an awesome cosplay. Anyways, so it's possible to have other D&D Forgotten Realms developers. We could look at the possibility of having Trent join us again, and I have no idea if Sven has the time to join other streams right now, because I imagine he's pretty darn busy trying to get Baldur's Gate 3 finished and out the door. But we could try. Yeah, I mean, it never hurts to ask, right? That would be fun. Alrighty. Any chance of the Xanathar as a patron? His quests could be silly. There's always a chance. We already the challenge with the Xanathar. I mean, first of all, the Waterdeep the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign has an abundance of awesome antagonistic characters that are also kind of a big deal. There's the Zentarum, led by one of Manchun's clones. There's Jarlaxle Bainray, who is obviously one of our champions, so not likely to be a patron. And then there's, Vajra and Mert, who are both characters there. There's Laeral Silverhand, who would make a really good patron. I mean, daughter of Mistra, 1,500-year-old wizard, sorcerer, former deity or whatever. So there's a lot of options for patrons just from that one campaign. But we also want our patrons to represent other campaigns. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance for the Xanathar, but it doesn't look like he is the one that we're intending to go with next. Maybe someday. Is that loot ever going to be purchasable, or do you have to be a streamer to get that shirt? Oh, this shirt. We are a digital licensee for Dungeons and Dragons, which means we can sell stuff related to our game, but physical product isn't something that we handle, and we just don't do it. So, however, you can, if they are still available, I assume they still are. I haven't heard otherwise. For Fans by Fans has Idle Champions shirts and mouse pads, and I'll just move some stuff so I can hold up the mouse pad. The print run of these mouse pads turned out really good. Woo! Shirts and mouse pads are available through For Fans by Fans. Other than that, occasionally we give shirts away, but it's not something that happens very frequently. Alrighty. Rather than a leaderboard, what about a percentage of players who have completed a variant? It could substitute as a quick and dirty difficulty indicator. If 80% of players have completed a variant, it's probably easy. If 20% have, it can go either way. 3%, it's a huge challenge. That's a trickier one, Fears. I appreciate that you're trying to problem solve for this. I don't... That would be a tricky thing to track and implement. I don't know. But I will. I'll make a note on this topic because it's something that people are expressing a lot of interest in. And so what I'm going to do is I will pass that along to a few different folks on our team to see if that's something that we have any interest in. So no promises, but maybe. Let's see. Probably not going to get an answer, but when is the next campaign coming? October, early October. Did we mention that on stream yesterday? Soon, in the next few weeks. There was a time earlier this year when we were hoping to launch it in tandem with the book this week. But when the pandemic started, it looked like there were going to be significant delays in publishing and shipping and all that stuff. And what we didn't want to do was come out before the adventure and have the potential to spoil anything that's coming as part of the book. Because we have in the past received feedback from players that, hey, because we had the adventures for a campaign come out so long before the book ended up coming out, that they had some stuff spoiled for them because they were going to end up playing it or whatever. And so we wanted to avoid that kind of thing and make sure that what we did was it would come out around the same time as the book, or in this case, to be safe, a little bit later. As I understand it, we're targeting early October, which isn't that far away. I mean, we just got Descent into Avernus Part 6. Next week, our first Year 4 event, High Harvesttide 4 with Torragar Steelfist starts. We're getting pretty close to October already. What are the chances of getting a character from Baldur's Gate 3 into the game? That's an interesting question. We don't actually... we don't have any visibility into what's going on with Baldur's Gate 3. It is very much under wraps. We know as much as you do about a lot of it. Now, that being said, Sure, it's possible. I don't know how likely. I don't know timelines. I don't know when Baldur's Gate 3 is actually coming out. I know they're planning on an early access soon, I think. But yeah, yeah, it's a great big question mark. It might happen, but let's see. Let's see. I just got here and I missed the previous streams this week. When will they update GEs and wild offers? Someone says they've seen nothing new for months. It only gets empty offers with just chests. If somebody is seeing literally nothing in wild offers, it's because they own everything. Like wild offers are built out of what you have access to that you don't have. So if you have a champion and you've never gotten any of their golden epics because you got that champion through a time gate, then those will show up in there. But yeah, if you aren't seeing anything in the wild offers ever, then that means that everything that you have access to, you already have. Now, do we have an established cadence for when we update it? Like, we update stuff every few months. Chris and I were talking about this yesterday, in that the gem store and the wild offers are where things that have been available in other places will show up. So, if something showed up and it was a promo, like you went to PAX and we gave you Rockstar Gym Dark Magic, that is the kind of thing that will show up in the gem store eventually. And if there are things that you had to buy somewhere, then they'll show up in wild offers eventually. But yeah, let's see. I missed the start of the stream. Do the live streams get uploaded somewhere afterwards? Would love to see the interview with Dave and Justin. Yeah, this stream will be uploaded to the CNE Games YouTube, which is youtube.com/CNE Games. You will be able to access it there as of noon tomorrow. Yeah. Alrighty. Are there plans to bring the UIs more in line with each other? No. No, they're different interfaces. Like, they fulfill different needs. So, there are things that are missing. Like Justin was talking earlier about how he would like to, and this isn't something that is high on the priorities list right now, but he would like to make sure that collections exist for console players as well. And furthermore, we would like to expand collections to include things like skins and golden epics and other stuff. Things that have been available in the game that players don't have. So, hint for the chess code, please. So I had plans for an extra chess code, but I got caught up trying to put things together to make the stream happen, and forgot to make it. And so, what I will probably do is I'll make some kind of, I'll make an evil code and hide it, and players will be able to figure that out. Yeah, as far as I know, there isn't one right now. And I actually don't know what Margaret's codes are. She doesn't share that info with me anymore. Can you give an example of what players have suggested and you've implemented? Wow, that's a huge question. That's a better one for Justin and David. I know that, some of our features had their genesis with player feedback, right? So, for example, players would ask us about ways to replay challenging variants just for fun, because they wanted to do durable deep again kind of thing. And we sat on it for a while until we came up with a way that we were happy with, what we were building for the game, where there would be a meaningful feature built around it, and that eventually became the patron system. Just as an example, we got requests for more ways to automate different aspects of the game, and that eventually became Modron automation. So those are examples of things that players suggested that we implemented. In terms of other changes, I mean, Ashara just this past week, her specializations were adjusted and updated, based both on the fact that we had not included goblins in a lot of the different parts of the game, and we needed to address that. But also, there was a bunch of things that Ashara was missing, and so we, added Aarakocra and Yuan-Ti and Warforged and a bunch of other stuff into her bonds so that players could use her differently, but also to breathe new life into Ashara. So, that is all based on player feedback as well. Like our initial design for Ashara had her much more narrow, where she had one tier of bonds, and it was bonds humans, elves, and dwarves, and then there was tieflings, fearbolgs, and dragonborn, and that was it. Those were her 3 bonds. And because of player feedback, we eventually added a second tier of bonds, and we have updated that tier twice now. So those are also things that players suggested and that we implemented. Alrighty. Oh, Luke McKay. What is the wackiest type of creature /the team have ever considered for a champion, like a Mind Flayer, Half Dragon, Elemental, Dryad, Lich? I don't know how wacky we've been in trying to think of what we could do with a champion. A lot of characters, a lot of protagonist characters tend to be elves, humans, and dwarves, like the fantasy, like the main fantasy characters. The good guys in a lot of stuff, and so a lot of characters tend to be those. And then, we work with a lot of content creators, and, they tend to pick a lot of the same things. Tieflings are very popular, that kind of stuff. So, we don't have a lot of what I would consider to be wacky options, right? We do more or less restrict ourselves to using the playable 5e PC races, like the stuff that the players have had access to, just because it's just for simplicity, I guess. So, we haven't considered doing a Mind Flayer. We got around that by doing a Mind Flayer Hitch skin. We haven't considered doing a Lich, but we have a Lich Dadius skin for Dadius the Scarlet. And so our skins are probably our biggest opportunity to be a little bit different. But yeah, it's not something that we haven't really considered anything more radical for the champions themselves. We're just like slowly trying to work our way through all the playable races to make sure that everything gets in here at some point. Is there an ultimate combo for strong chains like in Chrono Trigger, a bonus for doing things at the same time? Yes and no. So unlike Chrono Trigger, you will never have the opportunity to have a new potential attack pop up because 2 champions have their ultimate at the same time, or 3 in the case of Chrono Trigger, because those double and triple attacks. I mean, man, that was awesome, and I loved that game, and that was a very cool thing. But that's not this game. That's not something that we've ever planned to do. We're up to 67 champions. Trying to create interactions for all of them with each other is just never going to happen ever. It just isn't. Now, in terms of combinations of ultimates that get good results, yes. Some ultimates, for example, Warden's ultimate will pull all enemies on the screen into one spot, which can be really helpful because Celeste has a habit of casting her ultimate on one enemy instead of the group of enemies. But if they're all in one group, it's easy. Minsk increases damage taken by a bunch of enemies all at once. And there's a number of champions who have effects like that. Both Dinar and Krull have ultimates that leave a pile of damage on the ground that continuously ticks away, which can be huge for dealing with segmented hit points and armored hit points on enemies. So there are combinations. But in terms of like combinations that are like ultimately super strong, not a huge number, I wouldn't say. I'd say that what happens is you kind of get used to which ones function in which ways, and then in some different circumstances you'll just use different ones in different orders. Mage Pie, any updates on the year 2 rebalance? No, there isn't. Long story short, the development of mode run automation and multi-party mode and then the subsequent dedicated focus to fixing bugs and iterating on that system and fixing other bugs that have cropped up, quality of life, has pushed back our year 2 champion balance update. I don't have an ETA for it. It is still something we would like to do. But we're focused on quality of life very much at the moment. So that red Abishai looks awesome. Just gonna kind of poke him a bunch, and then he just turns and runs. Check out that tower in the background. The tower's got horns. Anyways, alrighty. I think this got missed. So let's try and ask this without errors this time. Can the set formation auto progress function be tweaked to recheck / reapply every 5 areas or so? It seems to have problems with champions who aren't viable at area 1. Hello, slot 12. I mean, I can't speak to that. I can pass you a suggestion along, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that we want to do, or if we're happy with it. I don't know if that's something that's going to make things easier for anything. So I'll pass it along. Are there any plans to add a pause button? There are not. No. If you're having trouble rearranging your formation, leveling things up, moving stuff around, right now, just go back an area. But in terms of pausing the game and then redoing it, it's not something that we're planning on doing. At least not right now. I suppose there's always a chance that minds will get changed. Man, some of these enemies just aren't loading on screen. Where are you, Blue Abishai? Why aren't you there? That's so weird. Oh well, at least the stream isn't lagging out or something. Dylan, can we see the goldfish familiar? Oh yeah, sure. It's just kind of bobbing there. I think of the other new ones as well. Whoops, wrong button. Yeah. And then the more recent patron ones that people might not have seen too much of yet. And then, why not? I'll add a fire breath just to make sure so that they're just tearing through everything. But yeah, there's an Arctic fox, a raven, a quasit, a zorbo, the Xanathar's goldfish, sometimes known as Silgar, for all, and the mindful sloth, who just kind of pokes away. Yeah, so familiars are out. Alrighty. Ever play around with the idea of player versus player? It would be cool to pit your formation against other players, and there's glory to be earned in the arena. Not really, at least not for this game. I like competitive play as much as the next person in some games. But we didn't really design this game with that in mind, and it's because we focus exclusively on the single player experience. Introducing aspects of multiplayer or player versus player is just not something that we're looking at doing. Yeah. On my screen, the fish spits attacks. Are you set to low graphics for speed? So what I have right now is I have most effects turned off or slowed down or what have you. And the reason that I do this is, I don't know if it's still the case, but we used to have a number of viewers who had photosensitivity. And so what I did was I turned off blood effects, I turned off lighting effects, I turned off screen shake, and I turned the particle effects down. And what that does is it means that your familiar is just kind of idle in place instead of animating the click, which is kind of like a flicker. That was, I know at least one player sent me an email asking us if we could stop doing it just because it was bothering them. And so I have everything turned down. So that's why that is the way that is. Can you do the Criddler? Oh, yeah. Where's Binwin again? Whoa. More minions. All right. I feel obligated to level them all the way up if I'm going to put them in this formation. So, familiars. Whoops. So, put Crowy here. And then There he is. And I'll swap Binwin out. There you go. There's a Crowy. Just kind of bobbing back and forth. Maybe I'll put him up here beside the Raven. I'll put the closet down here. You guys are casting my ultimates way too fast. There we go. Yeah, there's Crowy. Crowy, Crowy, Crowy. Alrighty. I mean, you can ask me questions about the Discord on the Discord. Somebody asking why they can't use off-server emojis. Honestly, it's because people have abused them in the past, and so we don't have that accessible. There's we've had reported instances of players using emojis to bully each other, which is a whole other subject and a whole can of worms I don't really want to spend a lot of time getting into on stream, but that's the main reason is the off-server emojis are not available on the Idle Champions official Discord, is because they can be abused. That's it. Let's see. Why some of the buyable familiars with the buy button appear in the drag out menu when the others don't? Because not all of these familiars are purchased in that way. Like, some of these are purchased in gems. Some of these were purchased in old DLC packs. Some of them are from other things. Yeah. And then a number of these, like, you can see that this initial run of basically all the first familiars are all labeled as other party at the moment. What? How is this boss still alive? I got E173 and I'm only at area 145. Weird. Anyways. Is anybody able to explain to me how to gear up Spurt? Do I need to open a gate and try to redo his stuff? Yeah, you will need to just earn chests for Spurt in order to gear him up. So if you've unlocked him through a time gate, when you do your first mission, you unlock him, and then you'll get the opportunity to get, I think, 3 gold chests now by playing that time gate more, and then a number of silver chests as well. And so, yeah, you'll want to go as far as you can in there, getting as many of the chests as possible. And that'll, yeah, gear up Spurt. Any plans to increase the spend rate for contracts? Spending 10 at a time when they're over 2,000 takes forever. This is something that we were talking about earlier, and like it's a low priority because there aren't a lot of instances where people want to spend 1,000 contracts at a time. But it's something that we've discussed. I don't know that it's not a priority, but that might happen. Let's see. Are there any plans to get rid of the upgrade pop-ups? They're only really on briefly, but when you're setting up your formation and trying to move things around, they're annoying. No, I mean, not really. There might be something that we could do to make them less invasive, but in terms of removing them altogether, that's not something that we're planning to do. Yeah. I see people asking about the Idle Champions Discord. I haven't plugged that in a long time on stream. Our official Discord is at discord.gg/idlechampions. Feel free to join us. You cannot use outside emojis, but there are a number of emojis related to Idle Champions that are available on the Discord, and channels where people share combinations and all kinds of other stuff. Join us, one of us. In the meantime, Angry Minotaur, and by Angry Minotaur I mean Angry Minotaur. There he is. This doesn't really show it off, but he can actually, when he attacks, his swords actually light on fire when he goes to swing, because Torgar looks awesome, and he's coming next week. Here he is chilling out a little bit. A little casual Torgar, angry Torgar, casual Torgar. You get the idea, I think. God, it's 2:49. Wow, this day went by real fast. So funny thing about Torgar. I'll just cut right back to it. Now, you guys have probably noticed that Grama and Krull are enormous in formations and block things off. That is nothing on Torgar. Let me tell you, Torgar is easily the largest champion, and he is the champion with which you will use to hide other champions behind him, visibly in the formation, because he's a big Minotaur. Yeah. Anyways, first year 4 event champion coming next week. It's gonna be fun. His design, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's response to it. Is he bigger than Moosrill? He's taller than Moosrill. Moosrill is pretty big, but yeah, Torgar is enormous. He's bigger than Moosrill. Yeah, Moosrill. God, I call him Moosrill. Yeah. What else? I go back to my list. I do have a list. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I haven't covered for today. Wow. All right. So, do not forget, and I forgot to. I usually like to start this at the beginning, but like there's this button up here. Switch to the game only mode. This button up here. Anniversary celebration. Click on your anniversary celebration button after 12 p.m. Pacific each day, and click on that claim button to get your anniversary chest. Those of you who have been doing so the last couple of days are just, 2 more sleeps away from Icewind Dale Tyrrell / Moosrill and snow click damage. So, don't forget to do that. Inevitably, every year there's somebody who emails us after the anniversary celebration is over and is like, I forgot 3 days. Can I have my, I forgot 4 days or 5 days, or, I forgot to reset or whatever, and they didn't get their chests. And it's like, just log in, get your chests. Don't forget your chests. Get your chests. Will Torgar's buffs be observable by Artemis? He seems like something that should be great for him. I can't actually get into Torgar's design. We are waiting for the Torgar Steelfist Champion Spotlight, which will be coming soon. Yeah, it'll be either the end of this week or the beginning of next week that it comes out. What else is coming? Let's see. I don't think I have the. Yeah, I don't have the snow click damage, so I can't show it off. Yeah, I just haven't. And apparently, my game also doesn't have monsters loading at the moment. But alas, these things happen. What else? Yeah. What can I say about Torgar except that he is an evil champion, just like the other members of the Dark Order, and. There's a very, very good chance that Torgar kicks open the door for evil champions, evil formations to thrive. Okay, so does the snow click damage do more damage in Avernus or less? Neither. It does exactly the amount that it's meant to, which is the amount that it always has. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a thing. Maybe dethrone Zorbu. I don't know. Torgar, I don't know if he will. But his design looks really, really strong. And I think everybody's going to really look forward to seeing it. Yeah. Otherwise, what else is there to talk about? I know some of you tuned in to our day of streaming yesterday. We, in addition to having an extra special Griddle Champion stream and a special Year 3 in review stream with myself and Chris Dupuis, we had the debut of another show yesterday, which looks a lot like other shows that you may be familiar with. But we had Garwar's guide. In the case yesterday, Garwar's Guide to Modron Automation made its debut. And we're curious what you think. I know Garwar wanted feedback. It was something that people have been asking about is just like deep dive stuff where somebody talks about individual features and things. While yesterday was the first one, Garwar's Friday show will be the same Garwar show that you come to expect. But on Saturday mornings now, you will also be able to catch Gar Wars guides. So, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Griddle Champions, Sean and Lee, they're going to be having a lot of fun with... I was about to spoil the art for this week. There's a theme, and it's themed around a book that might have come out this week. And there is some new art, although some of it is a greatest / best of some other stuff that's tied very much to the new book. So that's going to be very cool. We have Gar Wars Guide to Everything tomorrow afternoon, and then Gar Wars Guide on Saturday. Saturday's guide is going to be more for the newer players. I hope you'll tune in. This has been our show for Thursday, September 17th, 2020, halfway through the 9th month. Thank you guys all. Thank you all for joining us, for participating in the stream, for asking questions, for participating in both the Auto Champions and D&D communities. You guys are awesome. This show exists because of lots of cool people. Some of those cool people include our producer, moderator, Sasha, as well as our executive producer, Erica, as well as our partners at D&D. Finally, a huge thanks to David and Justin for joining me today. It's always a challenge to get them for the stream because they're busy, and so the fact that both of them were able to take some time to join me is very much appreciated, and I hope your questions were answered to your satisfaction. So, anyways, take care. Sincerely, there's a lot going on right now. I know we're suffering through toxic smoke air here, and other people are going through stuff in other places. So just take care, have fun, be good, and join us tomorrow for Griddle Champions. See you guys. Have a good one.